Welcome into a wild card breakdown of the Packers offense against the Chicago Bears. Packers lose 27-31 in this one. A heartbreaking loss for Packers fans. Love had a fantastic game, 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, but second half was a struggle for the entire offense, in particular the offensive line. But let's dive into the film, get right into the breakdown. The early success from the Packers came from under center, and we're going to see a change in the second half once we get to the second half. But here you're going to have Dobbs just winning on a nice crosser route. Bears here are going to play man-to-man in this situation. Got a nice release on the inside by Dobbs. Just kind of a deep sail, right? So you kind of show this double crosser, and then he's going to break back out, and he's just going to find some space. Jalen Johnson behind him, thinking that he has help over the middle, and Dobbs with a nice route there to get 33 yards. He had a fantastic game. If the Packers were able to win this one, Dobbs would be a big reason why, not just because of his ability to make plays, like on this play, but a few situations where he's falling on a fumble and also, batting a ball out of bounds to save the Packers from a turnover. Next play we'll look at is Christian Watson's first touchdown. Here again, under center, using that play action to their advantage. And you're going to motion in Christian Watson here, looking like a duo concept that Packers have run over and over again. And you're going to get kind of this flow all the way to the left. He's just going to scream across on this slide route and be wide open. So see that motion. Bears have seen that on film. Hey, they're going to run duo that side. Ends up looking like wide zone. And then you've got Watson sneaking behind the line, opposite of the flow, able to outrun his defender on a third down, score a touchdown for the Packers. Nice 3rd and 2, converting for a touchdown early on in the game. Here's one of the better runs from the first half. This is going to be a 13-yard gain. Nice little gap scheme by the Packers on this one, but I want to pay attention to the backers and the safety here. You can see they're pressed up a little bit, but they're going to be very patient. And this is going to change from the first to the second half. All right, you can see them doing their typical read steps. Obviously, play action has been very fruitful for the Packers early on in this game. But this is just a lot of patience, especially from 53. Edwards, who goes out in this game and gets replaced. But Packers are able to get hats on hats. Jacobs able to find a seam. We'll see it a lot better from the end zone angle. But get a nice down block. Get a nice combo up to the next level. And then Jacobs is going to find some work. You can see the over pursuit here from Edwards. The hat kind of ripping out here. So Jacobs is going to find that seam. Get 13 yards on this one. One of the more productive carries for Jacobs in this one. Next one, we're going to pay attention to Golden up here at the top of the screen. He's going to see Jordan Love get flushed out here. And have a play action. You're going to get him over, show that gap scheme that you had successful play with earlier, right? But instead, it's going to be play action. Slows down the rush a little bit, gives Love a nice pocket. He can feel this depth by the defensive end, so he's going to step up and out. And Golden does a good job here of recognizing, hey, my QB's scrambling out. Let me just change direction here. Love is able to see it. He's got nobody on him. So Golden with a nice heads-up play there, changing the route, helping his quarterback in the scramble drill, getting 36 yards on a 2nd and 10, and setting up the Packers in better position for a score later on this drive. See it from the end zone angle. Pretty good job by the offensive line here. All right, Morgan doing what he needs to do, getting Sweat out of the play. Love steps up, finds Golden. Accurate pass, big play down the field. Next play, we're going to focus on Reed down here at the bottom. This is just a simple double move with an arches concept. You're going to show that spot. All right, get that backer to attach. And then you're going to spin out, and you can just see down here at the bottom, looking at Edmonds trying to cover Reed. Sees that spot, and then immediately plants. So his first step is down. And he's got to try to trail a receiver. That's just going to be a mismatch. Watson taking 2 defenders there as well. right, by splitting up field. All right, he's crossing the face. He's got to occupy these two defenders. Splits the two of them, so they have to choose. And then Reed, nice job. Easy pass there by Love. Well drawn up touchdown here. Good mismatch. Good pocket. And an easy touchdown there early on, putting the Packers up 14-3. Then you had the earlier touchdown that worked. Why not try it again? You're going to get that same short motion. Showing that duo. This time, again, Watson free in the flat. Nobody followed him. He's going to be running free, jumping over defenders, obviously wanting that second touchdown. Drops the ball, and Dobbs is there to save it. Obviously, it's 4th down, so it is not a touchdown in this situation. Can't advance the ball on 4th down. If this was a 3rd and 1 and the Packers did this, it would count as a touchdown. But on a 4th down, that is not the case. So really, going back to what was working, they had success on it early on. This is before, halftime, before these adjustments. Major adjustments are taking place. You can see Watson jumping over, just has to secure the ball. 29 does a good job of getting the helmet on the ball, forces it out. Dobbs able to recover, saving it from a turnover, and instead Dobbs is going to convert on a touchdown later on this drive. Then we're going to get essentially a switch release here, trying to identify mess up with the matchups. You can see this is a really nice job by LaFleur. He's going to motion him out. He's going to force them to communicate the change. He's going to motion him back in across. All right, then they have to communicate again on the snap. So you can see they're pushing things out. Then you're going to bring him back. Then they have to communicate again. And then you have a switch release where you essentially have a slant that's just going to occupy the rub, right? And then you're going to get this kind of whip route very quickly, or patient slant or flat route. And Dobbs able to get an easy touchdown there. And we'll see it a lot better from the end zone angle, the patience from Jordan Love as well, because if he just throws this right away, it gets batted down. It's the end of this drive. You can just see that pump fake here, getting that defender off the ground. Able to find Dobbs for a touchdown. I think if he doesn't give that little pump fake to get that defender off the ground, he's going to make a play. He's going to bat that down, and that Packers drive is over. And I had to show this play. This play overall is just ridiculous. Obviously, we got Kennard in here as an extra tight end. This is just going to be crazy what he's doing in this situation. And again, we're just going to get a smart play by Dobbs. All right, Dobbs was great as a receiver tonight. Had a ton of smart plays. This is going to be another one of them. But you got Kennard, obviously, not expecting to get the ball there as a check down, just running through people, gets punched out. Linemen, they don't have time in Indy to do ball security. And I have no idea how this ball right here does not get recovered when you got two Bears there. He rolls on top of it, and then you get a little tap here by Dobbs, pushing that out of bounds. Packers are able to keep the ball at the spot of the fumble in this situation. Speed it up a little bit. This is just ridiculous. Love getting pressure. All right. Obviously, Walker has to choose between the outside guy or the inside guy. Walker should probably be taking the inside guy in this situation. All right. He's a little bit of a bigger defender. Kennard able just to leak out there, get some extra yardage, and then punt the ball downfield. And you're going to see it here from Dobbs. All right, sees the ball roll up. He's not going to be able to get to it. Just light tap, putting that thing out of bounds, making sure it doesn't get turned over. One of the big changes in the second half is when the Packers were under center, they would get a ton of downhill pressure. Doesn't matter if it was a run, if it was a pass, because the Packers were successful with their play action. You're going to get a lot of downhill defenders when they're under center. All right, so we can see here, this is a run play, and we're going to see the nickel here. He's just going to crash immediately. All right, doesn't matter if it's a run or a pass. He's going to send it because his responsibility, if it's a pass, just get to the quarterback. All right, use that speed. Generally, a late blitz by a nickel, it's going to be tough for the Packers to do anything about it. So that was one of the adjustments that the Bears made in the second half that really paid off. That's why, I've seen a bunch of tweets. Packers only went under center, 5 times in the second half. Well, it's because they saw the pressure. You're going to see it up here at the top, right? Anytime they're under center, hey, let's go downhill. If this ends up being play action, right, and Love has to roll out, he's got a guy in his face, right? So anytime the Packers were under center in the second half, they were just bringing people downhill. And we'll see that again on one more snap later on. That's why the run game isn't productive. That's why the play action game kind of dies. And that's the reasoning why, they don't go under center very often in the second half, is because the Bears made adjustments, right? So LaFleur was adjusting to the adjustments. So it's not his fault, that they didn't go under center very often and didn't have a lot of success under center in the second half. Watch Dobbs here. Now you're lining up in empty. And this is just going to be a really nice grab. Good patience by Dobbs. Obviously trying to stay square with his defender, giving him the option. Can I go in? Can I go out? Nice little break here at the top. Able to create enough separation with a safety and get 22 yards on this play. So you can see, get pressure on the inside, empty. They bring 5. Banks struggling with that speedy linebacker. All right. Love taking a hit as he's delivering. Still an accurate strike. And Dobbs able to get a nice first down there. Up 21-16 in this one. Here we've got another example under center. Run game not going to be working. You're going to get pressure from these safeties, crashing down on the play side. You can see, if you've got a safety crashing down, it's going to be forcing your man to take an extra blocker. Walker not able to get him out of the picture. He ends up making a play just for a 1-yard run. But again, you got guys, when the Packers are under center, coming downhill, right, on both sides. He's running downhill. And then that's occupying all these blockers up front. So it's going to make it more difficult for the Packers offensive line to have numbers in this situation. And it's going to allow these Bears defender to fill the gaps quite easily and limit the yardage on the ground. So the inability to, run the ball in the second half was partially due to the adjustments by Dennis Allen and the Bears defense. Here we are, Matthew Golden. He's going to have a great play lined up in the backfield. Motioned out on that orbit motion. We got numbers. You can see, got a blitz running downhill. That was a theme. So this is going to be a good job, countering that. He's got to get upfield, try to make a play. Golden's going to make him miss essentially here with 3 defenders, jumps over him and able to get into the end zone. So nice job by Watson and Musgrave here, staying engaged in their blocks. And good job with the balance by Matthew Golden, making some guys miss, getting into the end zone for his first career touchdown. I think Golden showed a lot in this game, and we'll see another one of his plays in a couple plays. He has a ton of potential. I think his usage will increase. Obviously, there are going to be some free agents that likely won't be back with the Packers. And that's going to give him some more opportunities next year. Try to fly through the next few plays. And this is going to be Dobbs here. 1-on-1. You're going to get an alert. You got 1 high man coverage. And this is just something where, we got essentially a hitch here to take the outside corner. You've got 1 high safety. This is going to be your alert, right? You get this certain coverage. You're going to alert to this slot fade. And this is just great work by Dobbs, creating enough separation, making a one-hand catch, extending this drive. This was a 2nd and 8. That's just a great job. You're not going to see it. There is a little extension, a little hand fighting by both sides, right? But Kyler Gordon is going to fall off balance a little bit. Dobbs able to concentrate, get a nice 34-yard catch there. Move the ball downfield. It's 27-24 in this situation. Field goal puts it up 30-24. You got a 6-point lead with enough time later on to score a game-winning field goal. But obviously we know what happens on this drive. And the next play, you're going to get in the slot again, picking on Kyler Gordon, who's a very good player, just dealing with a ton of injuries. And you're going to get similar action here. This is a really good job by Matthew Golden. And talked about, he's got a bright future. He's going to get a lot more playing time, but Notice his route stem. He's doing the same thing. He's chopping his feet. He's acting as if, hey, this is going to be a slot fade. We just beat him on a slot fade. So he's going to show that slot fade, and then boom, he's breaking. He's making separation because he's going for that out, getting the first down on a 2nd and 10. So this is just good route running. It's one of the strengths of Matthew Golden. They put him in a situation here. He's able to realize, hey, this guy just got beat on a slot fade. Let me show the same action, but let's break out. And that's going to be a nice 12-yard gain. But of course, we know this was after, you have a delay of game after a timeout. You've got Matthew Golden making this play. Still ends up being a missed field goal by McManus that would have made the game, 30-24. And Packers could have won this 33-31 had he made this field goal initially. And if the last drive goes the same way it does, they're in field goal range, kicking a game winner, moving on to the next round, playing in Seattle. But that's not the case. Here we've got Reed. Just going to focus on 3 more plays. This is a very nice crossing route. Again, you get man coverage in this situation, a match coverage. After match with a crosser, you get 1 high. Ball hits him in the hands. A little bit high. Could have been flat and in front, but still we got both hands on it, and he's dropping that. It's just a very unfortunate play. He catches this. This ball was snapped at 55 seconds. He's running out of bounds. A little bit high, but still, that one is very catchable. Just closes his hands too early. And he's getting that ball down to, the 24-yard line, 23-yard line. Packers are able to get everyone moving up the field. They get that spiked with, 40 seconds left. They're in a very good position in order to put a touchdown on the board. It's just an unfortunate drop by Reed in that situation. And we got 2 more plays that we'll look at. This one focusing on Watson. And this is almost a great play. If he goes up with 2 hands here and extends fully, he's probably in the end zone after he gets hit. All right. And if he's not, he's down at the 1-yard line. This ball was snapped at 19 seconds. That's probably down at the 1-yard line, maybe in the end zone. They're still going to be able to get up to the ball, and you have a lot more options when it's 4th and 1 or on the goal line at the 1-yard line rather than, your last snap being from 30 yards back, having to Hail Mary that to the end zone. So very unfortunate there. Again, looking at the offensive line, talking about them struggling. This is just a one-on-one. Anthony Belton losing in this situation. All right, just gets beat, lets him get under his arm, pushes him out. Jordan Love has to drift, so it's not going to be an accurate ball, but that is perfect placement while getting pressure in his face. I think if Watson goes up with 2 hands here, he's going to come down, he's going to get hit, and his body's crossing the line. Like, if he just tucks that ball away, 2 hands, his body's crossing the line with his momentum, that's a touchdown, and that is an insane throw. So if he's able to come down with that, that's the game right there with, 15 seconds left on the clock. And then the very last play, looking at the Hail Mary, which was not very good in my opinion. I don't think there's any practice for this because you've got all these guys deep. And for me, usually if you're trying to throw some form of Hail Mary, you want all your receivers in a similar area. And you're going to start to see, these guys trying to find empty space, moving all over the place. And Love, obviously, 3-man rush, trying to find somewhere to go with the ball. Throws it in between 2 receivers, which I don't really like the effort here either. It is the final play of the game, and you got 2 people not really trying in this situation. You got Emmanuel Wilson down there. You got 3 receivers on one side of the field being covered by 4. All right. If we're going to do a Hail Mary, you get, all your guys lined up. You get 1 in front, you get 1 behind. And that way, if it's tipped behind, you've got a receiver designated for that. If it gets batted down forward, you've got a receiver for that. All right. I just don't think this situation has been practiced, and it's pretty evident, based on the spacing by the Packers. They're really trying to find a hole in here when you've got 8 defenders deep. It just makes no sense. You're not going to find a hole in that situation. I feel like, just a legitimate Hail Mary, have your tallest receiver in the middle jumping up for it, have a few receivers in front, or one receiver in front, one behind, waiting for batted balls, because that's going to happen if you got 5 players jumping for a jump ball. But that's how it ends. Packer season is over on this Hail Mary. And that's going to do it for this video. I'll have another video tomorrow breaking down the defense. Obviously, big difference between the first and second half for the defense as well. And we'll pay attention closely to that. But Packers not advancing in the playoffs. Bears continuing their miracle run of all these come from behind wins, notching another one in their belt here. It'd be interesting to watch this Bears team as they continue in the playoffs, if they're able to keep that method of winning sustainable for a longer time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.